All right, folks, let's talk about something we usually don't admit. We messed up. Yep, even your favorite exhaust whisperer has those days. And we sent out a brand new shiny custom exhaust for a BMW M6 thinking we nailed it. And guess what? It didn't fit. Why? Because we sent an exhaust design for an E63 to an E64 convertible. Oops. So here we are, owning up to it. And sometimes even the best in the game gets tripped up. But let's break down why this isn't just a simple whoops moment. Custom fabrication at this level, it's not an exact science, and no, it's not a cop-out. There's real complexity behind it. Here's where we went wrong. We assumed that the one-size-fits-all jig for the coupe would fit the convertible. And honestly, that's a rookie mistake. Absolutely. The E63 and E64 convertibles aren't identical twins. They're more like cousins. Different chassis, different reinforcements, and completely different ball game for fitment, although they're close. So when we design a system, it's all about maximizing the available space on the car. Every bend, every joint has to consider where it fits, but also how they'll move. You see, stainless steel expands when it gets hot, like really hot. A tight fit in a cold engine can turn into a rattling nightmare once you're flying down the highway. And without the car here for us to build it on, we're completely working in the dark. We usually try to account for everything, but without test fitting, we're basically building a puzzle without the picture on the box. And let's not forget, we're squeezing the largest possible diameter tubing in there for max performance. So one little miscalculation and boom, fitment issues. So what do we do to make this right? Well, first we brought the car back in, and shout out to this incredibly patient customer for letting us sort this out. We not only got this system fixed with the fitment, but we also made a little upgrade with a removable catalytic converter section because, yeah, we dropped the ball and we want to step up to fix it. Now look, we're not perfect and we're a small shop, and sometimes, actually, more often than not, we make some mistakes. But every mistake is a lesson, and we're working hard to ensure these slip-ups don't happen again. Custom work means no two projects are the same, and we're constantly learning and improving. All right, we're trying to see exactly where we went wrong. Judging from the pictures that he sent us, we could see that he had headers installed. The headers weren't the style that we use, which are built off the factory components. Rather, they appear to be maybe a Super Sprint 5-into-1 collector, and right away we can see that the angles that are matching up to where the exhaust goes aren't exactly in line with each other. Now there could be a few reasons. Maybe we're off, maybe our system's off, but these collectors, being that they're 5-into-1 and they clamp over the 5 pipes that come into them for the merge, it's possible that they're twisted out or tilted a little bit, and they need to be heated up, squeezed in, maybe moved. But being that we now control how this thing gets installed on there, we might make it a little easier. But if we can get these things to line up, just in case he has to go back to a more factory setup, we can easily do that. So we're going to try to get these lined up, see what we can do about that. But the other thing that we can see that's going to be an issue are the bars that connect for the convertible to add the rigidity. Those are probably the main portion that was causing the trouble for the installation. It's not something we really took into account. He did tell us E64. We should have known that there was additional structure components in there, but it slipped our mind. You know, we made a mistake, and now we're gonna try to figure it out, get it right, and maybe make some modifications so that way if we run into this in the future, they fit up both ways. Yeah, I'm guessing him coming off, he must have shifted the collector over because he definitely had the clamps on there, both sides. It just looked like it needed a gasket or whatever clamping system that are included with the headers wasn't quite jiving with what we made up, because on one of the headers, as you know, like it's fixed on one side and then the other one's free floating, but it looked like they both were free floating. So what I think happened here before we got it back is the collector shifted over a little bit. So I'd like to maybe gently, you know, convince it over, try to see if we can get it lined up, and then see how far we truly are off. So that way we don't have to throw the jig completely out. We know it can kind of fit with these, and we know that it'll line up. And I have a feeling it might, being that some of the header securing bolts are missing. So I think that would definitely allow it to move rock over to move over. And just imagine you're trying to get it off. Maybe he was doing the shimmy and just kicked it over one way and it spread out by the time he was done.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure he had it on there. We just got to figure out how to get it back and then how to have something secure for it to bolt up. Because it'd be nice if he could stick a factory system on here just for our sake. Mm-hmm. But we could always throw V-bands on there or something like that. So let's start with that and then we'll go from there.
So we got the FMU exhaust up here and we're trying to get it to fit. And with his aftermarket headers, you can see that our flange that is designed to fit over the OEM system, it doesn't fit over the aftermarket header. So the placement of the overall like center section X pipe section is going to be roughly like 2 inches further out than originally designed for. You can see the space here where it should bolt up way up here to make a good seal and connection, because we only have like this lead style gasket and it's just kind of pressure swedged to seal. So that's another issue that we're having. This flange doesn't fit over. It's not in the right spot.
So why did this go south in the first place, and what did we actually have to fix? Well, before we even get to the differences of the E64 convertible versus the E63 coupe, let's talk about what was installed by the customer, which were these headers. Now, honestly, I'm unsure of the brand. They appear to me to be possibly the Super Sprint brand, just from the collector, from what I know. I could be wrong though, I don't know who's making what. But that being said, the flange that they run on those tend to have a slip fit that you use with the gasket that's supposed to take the place of the stock one to allow you to bolt up your stock exhaust system. But the way they produce those doesn't exactly work if you try to go with our half, which is designed to bolt up to the stock front half. So it's kind of a bad combination of two aftermarket flanges not working together. It allowed a little bit too much slip and not enough tightness when it was being bolted down. So we came up with a solution for that. The customer was worried about what he would do if he didn't like the smell of his exhaust, and that's actually more typical than you think, but being that he went through all this trouble, we figured, hey, let's get a removable catalytic converter in there so he can decide for himself. Of course, it's emissions compliant, so that's always great and probably the way it should stay. But that is a nice option that we were able to do that, and we're giving him the test pipe sections for off-road use only if he ever wants to get to it. But other than that, this is the same midsection, center section. You will notice that these braces here, this is the additional reinforcement that the convertible has that the coupes don't. So how they mount up to this bar is a touch different, but more or less we're in the same place. But here's where things get pretty difficult, are these rear bars. Now these go to this completely unique to this chassis plate here that reinforces, that allows the forces and the stiffness to travel and kind of, you know, just make it a little bit less flexible, as when you remove the roof of a car, the body tends to flex a little bit, and this adds back in that rigidity. But you can see that we don't have a ton of room here, and us not taking that into account was a huge reason why this didn't fit. It was primarily the main reason Because this was in there, we just couldn't get the system far enough up even to mount it on there. It was hanging too low, so we had to change the angle at which these pipes were rotated. So they actually had to be rotated up further into the body, re-welded, and then we had to redo this section to be able to come through here and then get back out to our quad canisters. So that being said, it's a small enough change to have been something that I don't think the customer could have dealt with on his own. And it's a little bit embarrassing for us, but that being said, every failure is an opportunity to not only learn, but to try to do right. And I feel like we got this thing to a point now where we can use this information. And if we do have more requests for the M6 exhaust in the future, we now have a jig that'll fit both systems. So all in all, I'd say it's a pretty decent outcome. So what's the takeaway from all this? Well, custom fabrication is an art, and every masterpiece has its rough drafts. And when we're doing this full time, we have a lot more rough drafts than we do actual products. So we appreciate your patience and support as we continue to try to craft the best systems out there and learn how to actually produce them so we can get them to you. So if you've got a project in mind, hit us up, and hey, don't forget to like and subscribe and let us know in the comments what you would do to your exhaust if it didn't fit. Until next time, stay curious, stay loud, and keep those engines roaring.